The NFL stands for not for long.
Set Sharga and Armstead. Roll out. Walker still running out. Looks to the left. Wide open. Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Colin Thompson Show. It's just me and Jack today. We've had a bunch of guests on. We got away a little bit from what our core is of just, talking sports and doing different things. But it's that kind of year, right? There's a lot to talk about, but maybe that's not in our wheelhouse. I'm an huge NHL fan, and have, other than the football, that's my second sport that I follow probably pretty religiously and can commentate on based off all the shows I listen to and all the games I watch. But not too many people are in the NHL, Jack. There's a certain cult of us that are into it. But I appreciate everybody tuning into the Colin Thompson Show, brought to you by Not For Long Media and presented by our friends at BoironUSA.com. Guys, let me talk to you about their Sinus Calm Allergy Melt Away tablets. Melt away seasonal sinus pain with Sinus Calm Allergy by Boiron. Unlike conventional medications that mask full-blown symptoms, Sinus Calm Allergy works with your body to relieve nasal congestion, sinus pressure, and pain, plus sinus headaches caused by allergies. Non-drowsy, which is the number one thing for me. I can't afford doing pods and doing all the different things. Just shut it down and not work out because of sinuses that day. You can hear them a little stuffed up today. I just took the Melt Away tablets. They are fantastic, non-drowsy, homeopathic care. Check them out. BoironUSA.com. Jack, how you doing, buddy? Big weekend, I know, for you at the Ross Tucker Show, NFL Draft. You're wearing the Hatters hat today. Big news.
Yeah, it was obviously the draft was very engaging, fun as it always is. I feel like it gets more and more exciting each and every year. And I mean, like you sort of mentioned, this is probably the busiest time in general for sports in the whole year. I mean, between baseball starting, it's pretty much like the equinox, as I think is what it's called, but it's kind of exemplified with the NFL draft and then NBA and NHL playoffs, MLB just getting started. So it's a really electric weekend. NBA playoffs have been super fun to watch this year at the storylines, and it's only going to get better.
So boring. I mean, literally so boring. The only team I like watching is the Nuggets. I'll be honest with
you. You're missing out the Minnesota Timberwolves.
And the Timberwolves. I watch them play a little bit too. But that's
yeah. I mean, the most interesting is you are in this postseason. You are legitimately seeing the passing of the guard between Kevin Durant getting swept by Anthony Edwards, LeBron losing to you.
Durant's been poo without playing for the Golden State.
But it's just that era of players are officially like, they're not the powers. They can't take their teams anymore. And it's sort of being seen by LeBron and then Steph Curry losing in the play-in. It's very much, you can't get more across all three of those guys than you can.
And I'll say this, Kevin Durant's not poo. I'm a huge fan. I think he puts himself out there a little bit and gets torched a little bit. That's how it is, though, in the bright lights, right? But the guy's an all-time great and a great player. Had a great run with Golden State, and I have a ton of respect for his game. I'd love to see him in Philly, right, Jack? Maybe we'll get Kevin Durant. Let's see how old we can get. What do you think?
You could get LeBron as a player option this offseason. You could get even older than KD.
Who you want?
Well, LeBron's a free agent. That's what I'm saying. He has a player option. So if you want to get even older,
maybe his son will transfer to University of Penn.
His son's in the draft. You could draft his son. That's the whole storyline.
He's in the transfer portal. No, he's not officially.
You can do both. No, he is declared for the NBA or the NCAA changed the rules that it's not like the NFL. You can declare for the draft and then withdraw and still have your college eligibility.
That's what I'm saying.
So
yeah,
so he's doing both.
Maybe he can play for Temple. Look at the NIL. It's doing well too, by the way. We're going to get in a little NIL today. We'll keep it moving here on the Colin Thompson Show. If not, Jack and I will go back about how bad the NBA product is and how it won't get good until there's 4 teams left. Really, let's just be honest. Jalen Brunson and the Villanova New York Knicks are so much fun to watch. The Sixers are horrible to watch. Joel Embiid is unbelievable. And geez, our podcast here with Harry Mays and Jason Martinez, hey, hit the nail on the head. He's a Hall of Famer, Joel Embiid, but he's limited by injury. and they're limited what they can do salary cap wise with him to put a supporting cast around him. Really, is Tobias Harris out next year?
Tobias Harris is expiring, and it's sort of ironic in the sense that I mentioned LeBron and Paul George is out there, but this Sixers team is perfectly set to bring in so many guys that they have basically their entire cap sheet is open besides Embiid's contract. I think it's like 60 million or something, but it's the weakest free agency class in quite some time. So, I mean, if this was a loaded free agency class, they could go out, bring in a star and a bench, and then bring in Maxey after the fact because he's a restricted free agent. And you could roll back, but it's tough because this year is a pretty weak class unless you somehow get LeBron.
Sure, they'll trade for somebody and make it happen. They need to win right away. That's the pressure in Philly. You see it with all the ball clubs there. We're going to get into the NFL draft. We're going to get a little NIL at the end. Jack's going to ask me some questions. I'm going to ask him some questions. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, everything we do here brought to you by Boiron USA and our friends over at the original Fudge Kitchen. Jack, summer's in the air, pal. And that means sinuses. Take care of them with Boiron. And that means good old classic creamy fudge that they ship across the country, fudgekitchens.com. You know it. You can finish the ad read for me. There's no ad read here, Jack. Everything's right off the dome. I don't read a piece of paper. It's off the dome because these are places and these are items and products that we believe in here that have believed in us for a really long time. And we're thankful for that. So check out Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. Send somebody a little taste of the Jersey Shore with that saltwater taffy and that creamy fudge. They make it handmade in-house. They ship it right out the back door. fudgekitchens.com. All right, Jack, let's jump ahead because I know you got to leave here and I'm going to finish with my stuff, but let's jump ahead to Jack's questions here. I think you can start down and scroll down, and I took yours, but I kind of had the idea separate to you. We didn't talk about this per usual, but I have some opening statements about the draft. We'll get into that in a second, but I want to get to Jack's question. So let's scroll down to our little organized page here, which we rarely have, and let's go over a few things. What do you got, Jack?
Yeah, so again, the first question I've got here is, what is the late round pick that you are most excited to see?
Listen, we talked about this before, and I said, quarterback of Florida State, his name slipping my mind. Jordan Travis, to me, is the absolute steal of this entire draft. This guy, at one point in time last year, right, dominating college football, and if he's healthy, they're in the Final Four, and who knows what happens from there. He had great receivers. He had a great team around him. I get all that stuff. But he was dynamic. He was accurate. He could move, throw. He was a leader. I mean, you could see how the team was impacted without him, right? Obviously his skill, but his leadership and the way the guys talked about him on that football team. So he's going to sit behind veteran Aaron Rodgers. We know how good he is. He's going to sit behind who he mentored, Jordan Love. He's going to sit behind Tyrod Taylor, who has mentored loads of quarterback in his decade-plus NFL career. And there's no rush for him to come back. He's injured. He'll probably come back with a month or two, maybe 3 on the practice squad and develop some confidence and some rhythm. And they're going to work him back in. He knows he doesn't have to play. Then he has a full entire offseason again to either back up Aaron or be the starter or back up somebody else. So he was almost like a red shirt year plus like a gray shirt year. And all of a sudden he's back and has an opportunity now to play with a Jets team that's transitioning away from Aaron Rodgers, possibly. And the team's loaded. They have players on long-term deals. They have a great defense. They have a head coach that believes in running the football and playing defense, which takes pressure off the quarterback. So to me, it's a win taking this guy late rounds. Almost forgot about him in a way. No one's been talking about him at all because he's rookie. He's got to play right away, right? No, he's got a red shirt year. He's going to take time off and have an opportunity to play for the New York Jets in their next phase, in their next opportunity post Aaron Rodgers. Or Jack, who was someone later rounds that you thought was a great pick?
Yeah, I thought Jordan Travis was a great selection. First one that came to mind wasn't a late round selection, but a late first round selection. I've heard a lot of positive buzz about Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida. I mean, he was sensational. He's Anthony Richardson's number 1 guy when he was there. Something we had Emery Hunt on our show. He called him, he's your wide, basically said he is your favorite wide receiver's favorite wide receiver. And he's all these tools. He's going to fit perfect in San Francisco. I mean, just adding another first-round wide receiver to that staple, that's going to be keeping Debo and Ayuk for at least one more year. that's going to be an incredible offense for Brock Purdy. It's pretty much going to be, not that they won't have several more shots for more years, so this is their best shot to win a Super Bowl, is bringing everybody back and also adding to it, everybody getting a year older, more experienced. Spencer Rattler, along the same vein of Jordan Travis, is really cool for New Orleans. And Derek Carr, he gets an opportunity. He's going to be the QB too. I mean, unless you consider Taysom Hill to be the quarterback too. So I mean, Spencer Rattler, somebody who was really highly regarded by a bunch of scouts. I mean, it was a weird shift in the quarterback. Usually, like you see, like you kind of see what you saw at the beginning draft, like 1 and 2, and then somebody around like 10, and then you see some day 2 guys like Will Levis last year, and he sort of trickled down. We just went 1 through 12, seeing 6 quarterbacks, and then Spencer Rattler going day 3 in the 4th round to New Orleans. So I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for him to sort of develop similar to Travis. And you might see him very much sooner, depending on how Derek Carr goes this year and how the Saints go in general.
What's next, Jack?
Yep. So we are going to be talking about Roger Goodell, who joined the Pat McAfee show this week. We had a tweet from Joe Pompliano, and it sort of talked about a lot of things about the draft process, international teams, all that sort of stuff. So we'll sort of go into the NFL draft. There's going to be a bidding process to host the NFL draft. It's kind of gotten very, very competitive. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, right. So what Roger's saying here, competitive in the sense that this is an opportunity now to change your entire city. This affects bars and restaurants. This affects commerce. This affects travel, airport travel, public transportation. The buzz around the city is fantastic. You could be in a smaller market, right, like Detroit. You could be in a colder market like Detroit, that can find a way to bring in dollars that a Super Bowl won't be there, right, moving forward, unless they build a new stadium. So it gives them an opportunity, these cold weather towns, these smaller market towns, to pack it, right? I think of Nashville in a way where up Broadway, it was a zoo, right? Look at Detroit. I mean, it was a zoo times 3. The amount of people they had there, super impressive. The droves and droves and droves of people that came out. I think that was so cool. Really kind of started for me in Philly, right? Like they had them in Chicago and that was cool. But when you look at that Philly draft and the backdrop and the vibe and the good weather and the late April when the draft is in Philly and these Northeastern, these Midwestern, these Northern towns, people are excited. People are ready to go. They are passionate football towns. Nashville is not a football town. Nashville is a college football town, right? It's not an NFL town. So it's a different vibe. You got people coming in from all over. But Philly is like all Philly fans. Detroit, that was all Detroit fans. And of course, a mix of other fan clubs too. So I thought the draft was really impressive. Again, they knocked it out of the park. The entertainment side of it, through the roof. I was bummed when I missed picks. I had dinner reservations Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday night we did not, but Thursday and Friday I had dinner reservations. So right in the middle of the draft, I'm staring at the TV watching picks, and I stayed off my phone. I know you didn't, Jack, because you like to know the pick and you like to be the first one. It's great to just take it in on the TV and just see it as it comes in. So I enjoyed the draft. What else you got, Jack?
Yeah, so like I sort of mentioned, Roger Goodell said an international team / division is going to be more than 10 years away if it does even happen at all. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing to talk about, an international team, international division. Oh, you could have a team in Germany and London and, Italy and wherever. But the problem with this is, and I think people won't talk about this enough, is they won't get any players in free agency. They won't. Maybe they'll get a single guy who's a jet setter who wants to see Europe for a couple of years, maybe on the back end of his career. But most of these guys have families. Most of these guys want to be close to their families. Most of these guys want to be around and not pay those taxes overseas too, right? There's a financial implication to that. So, and then also who are you going to hire to be your trainers, to be your strength coaches, to be your, because most of these people are from the States or from Canada for the vast majority, and they like being closer to home and working within a 3-4 hour flight from home. So to pick an entire organization up and put it over there, there's a logistical nightmare that comes with it. And it's not just like, go on over and play. So I thought it was interesting too. He talked about, and we'll kind of move to the next bullet point here, is there should be at least 16 international games per season for the next, within the next decade. So 1 game per week, just about, that's going to be played in another country. I love it. I think that's awesome. There's a way to build it in where you're going to give teams off. It could be, that sounds like a little much, right? But 1 per week is fair. And guess what? That means football all day long because of time changes, right? That's the Premier League to me. That's why I watch the Premier League. I love it. Get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee. There's live sports on. I thoroughly enjoy it. So Jack, moving forward, I don't think there's going to be a team or division over there for any time ever. Because how are you going to get players? How are you going to get coaches? Really hard to do. I think it'd be a flop. I think the NFL is dominant in the States, and they can move their product around the country at will and play, move in, move out. That's what the USFL does. The UFL now does. They're all in Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth. And then every weekend they go fly together and go play in DC, and they go fly and play in Seattle. So US is the hub. They can play anywhere. To move an organization is a lot of things. What's next there, Jackie Poo?
Yep. So Goodell also said he's not a fan of the preseason, and shifting schedules so the teams would play 2 preseason games and 18 regular season games is, quote, not unreasonable. And yeah, it would be a really interesting thing because Super Bowl will be shifted to President's Day weekend, sort of create de facto holiday day off the next day after. What do you feel about that shift?
Well, I want to hear your thoughts first, Jack. I know you said it was an interesting thing, but I want to hear your thoughts about this. I know you want more NFL football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a sucker. I like the preseason aspect of it. I feel like having 2 preseason games takes a lot of opportunities away from fringe roster guys. I'm sure you would know that way better than I would, but it's just, I feel like you learn a lot more about players in those 3 preseason games. I get the practices and sort of those inter team practices are sort of where you kind of figure out who's who. But for fans, we don't get to see that. Like, we don't get to see the Tanner McKees of the world dueling out against the Browns on a Friday at whatever, but so, I mean, that's that. I mean, the Super Bowl having a holiday the day after is nice, but I don't know. I don't know if I like 18 games. I don't like the continuing. I sort of just like how the NFL is set now. I know that's not what's going to happen. I know it's going to continue to grow and change. I just feel like a lot of this is happening very, very quickly when you look at the lifespan of the NFL.
Well, that's, I had people coming at me this weekend because there was a tweet that says, one word answer, Roger Goodell. What is he? I said, he's brilliant. The guy has made the NFL a much different league. International league, finances of the league are through the roof. There's a million podcasts and shows that talk about the league now and talk about all the things that Roger Goodell does when it comes to, expanding into different countries, salary cap. Look at what the draft is doing, how much money that makes the NFL, which makes the players more money, which makes the coaches and staff more money, which makes the owners more money, which makes every media outlet more money. So the guy is a money generating monster. Roger Goodell. That's what he is. People may hate him, love him. I don't know why they hate him. What? Because he made the league a safer place? Yeah. Players are dying, committing suicide, major CTE issues. Of course, we sign up for football. There's going to be head trauma. No doubt about it. But there's ways to make it healthier and safer for players. And Roger Goodell in his era has done a ton of that stuff. So I don't get the hate. It's fun to boo, and I get all that stuff. They boo Gary Bettman in the NHL too. It's all fun. I get it. But at the end of the day, that guy's made the owners money. He's made the players money. He's made the product great and made it healthier. So I'm a huge Roger Goodell fan in that sense. And at the end of the day, if you're going to add another game, which we thought was going to happen in the previous CBA, of get it to, President's Day weekend, where it's a 3-day weekend, would be massive, massive, massive for NFL ratings for those towns where people can fly in and not take off on Monday. Right, everyone's off on the Monday. So for the business side of the NFL, I love the move. Figure out how they're going to do it strategically with more time off because 18 weeks is really long. Two preseason games is probably the right number anyways. You have a couple joint practices in there, which are like harder than games, in my opinion. So that's no big deal. The league's a cash cow. I think the one thing you do need to address if you're going to do this is the roster size. Keep adding games. You got to make the roster bigger. I think the rosters need to go to a 60-person roster, and 53 need to dress on game day, not 46. I think their roster needs to improve. I mean, the practice squad bigger, which is going to take more money out of the owners' pockets. It's going to spread the salary cap bigger. If you're going to add games 17 and 18, you got to make the salary cap larger for teams to spend more money because you're playing more games. So to me, I love what Roger Goodell is doing. I think everything he touches business-wise for the NFL is really good.
Yeah. That'll be interesting because I'm sure even the larger players there's going to be a very big cap change if they go to 18 games, just because even then, like a guy like Mahomes is saying, I'm technically being paid $5 million a game for 17 games. I should be making $5 million more. Like, you're basically giving me a pay cut. I mean, I'm not saying that every player reacted like that, but I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of players making big money would react in that sort of way. So yeah, I would definitely say that. But we'll move forward to, speaking of GMs and owners, NFL GMs reportedly hated Spencer Rattler in the Netflix reality show so much that it reportedly hurted his draft stock. Do you think this is real news or fake news?
I think it's real news. This is a PSA to kids out there. I was very fortunate to have parents that saw this coming before it happened. Never forget it. I was getting recruited, and you could see just a little horror story here and there of somebody tagging you with a picture on Facebook while you're holding a beer, or somebody tagging you on Facebook while you're playing ding dong ditch, or you're doing something stupid as a kid, right? And my parents were like, listen, everything you do, people want to see it. You're right. You're a top recruit. People are trying to get your hands on you. People are trying to bring you down. So be careful what you say. Be careful what you tweet, what you post on Facebook, what you do. Don't curse. Don't nothing, because you're now competing against millions of high school kids and thousands of college kids and thousands of NFL players. You can't afford a blemish. You can't. A couple people can. They're usually a first-round pick. But the rest of the guys can't afford blemishes. And not that he did anything illegal, or not that he did anything wrong, but everything you do is evaluated. There was teams in the NFL that reached out to my high school football coach, reached out to high school disciplinarian and my high school to figure out what I did wrong in high school. And I was really fortunate to have parents that pound that in my head of everybody's going to be watching what you do. And even if there aren't, your future employer, the one you want to play for, the NFL, will be watching you. And that's the same with anything and anybody. So these kids now, where the phone is really accessible and everything you do is completely normal to film yourself and or others doing, it could hurt you. And it hurt Rattler. It did. I don't know if it affected the draft stock or he was going to be a higher pick. Who knows? But I believe that it hurt him, right? And there's some things that you do at 18 years old that a lot of people really happy there wasn't cameras and phones around to record it. But for our generation, Jack, they were around. Not for mine, more for yours. But yeah, that's a PSA to parents and kids out there, man. Watch what you put online, especially if you want to play in the NFL. Anything you did back in the day, Jack, that caused any problems at 18?
No, I was like the most boring 18-year-old in America watching Sixers games. Maybe I'd have cursed at Joel Embiid on Twitter. Probably still nothing inflammatory, but just like, man, be better.
Yeah.
So
well, I did some things I regret, but that's part of being a high schooler. You got to make mistakes and become a better citizen every day. And I digress. I'm not here to preach, but I think that's a huge thing too, man. You want to play in the NFL, you want to play college football. Be careful. Don't retweet bad lyrics. Don't like posts of things you should be liking posts of. Everything is judged because it's a competition. You entered this world. You want to compete in this world. It's more than on the field. And I think folks don't realize that. Don't realize that. All right, Jack, what do we got? Memphis NIL money here, it looks like.
Yep. So one of the most prominent group of 5 programs teams is set to be a beneficiary of large cash windfall as Memphis-based FedEx. They announced they will start an NIL program benefiting University of Memphis student athletes. How big is this news to you?
It's huge news. It's huge news, right? This is massive for Memphis. Like, this moves them up when conferences are looking to bring teams in of success in a hub city, in a sports city in Memphis. That's, kind of in limbo, if you will. Memphis says, hey, listen, we're going to put a stake in the game. I think it was a 5-year deal for $25 million. So $5 million a year being spread out throughout multiple teams, not just football or basketball. And they're going to uplift their athletic program, which uplifts attendance if the athletic programs do well, which makes more money for the school and money for everybody else and the entire area. It uplifts the entire area when the sports are strong. You don't have to be a sports school, but it's okay to be known for your success in sports because it affects everything else. And I think that's where a lot of people get it twisted, in the sense that it's okay to be good in sports. It's okay when you're an academic institution. It's okay. So I love the fact that Memphis is doing this. This could get them up into the Big 12. This could get them into the ACC, who's looking to bring people in, and get out of the American Athletic Conference, where Temple's now stuck in because they hit a wall, right? And you saw Houston, you saw UCF, you saw Cincinnati move on to the Big 12 and change their program because of the fact that they had success pre-NIL, and now they can get a bunch of NIL money because they're playing big-time ball in the Big 12. So great move for Memphis. It needed to happen, and a great move by FedEx. Huge company that everybody uses. I'm sure they'll get tons of exposure, tons of exposure out of it. All right, Jack. I'm going to rip through some things here. You're welcome to hang out in the back. I know you got a couple things going on, but I'm going to give my thoughts on a couple things. If you hang, I'll ask you questions. If you don't, because I know you have a meeting, you're welcome to leave too. Are you going to hang? Are you going to give the people what they want?
I'll give the people 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
Hey, buddy, I appreciate your time. All right, guys, there's a lot of winners from this weekend. I think the winners of the offseason so far, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs. Point blank period. You bring back your general manager, you sign him to extension. You extend Andy Reid, you extend Steve Spagnuolo, your defensive coordinator, Chris Jones, and now Travis Kelce, right? That's teams. Oh, you can't afford to keep everybody, right? You got to get rid of your teams, and teams disband, and you see that, right? They win a Super Bowl, and then after a couple of years, everything hits the fan. For your Kansas City Chiefs, things aren't hitting the fan. They're getting stronger. They're drafting players. They're bringing in free agents that are really, really good football players. So I'm excited about what Kansas City's doing. I'm interested to hear your thoughts because to me, they're a team that's quietly moving along, doing some awesome things this offseason and bringing back their club that's had a ton of success while also bringing in new people and new gadgets for Andy Reid in this.
Yeah, so I think the thing that really intrigues me a lot is I know you're a big fan of dynasties too. I always love, they call it the Super Bowl slump. I mean, just because it's a factor of teams will immediately poach who's at the top, whether that's role players, assistant coaches, whomever. And Kansas City's done a really great job of retooling in it. I was fascinated to see what would happen. I mean, this is a team that, outside of losing L'Jarius Sneed, which was just a cap casualty you had to do, and you still got draft picks for it, how they were going to retool their wide receiver group. And it seemed like they had some good cap space going into it. And that was their only severe weakness going into the offseason. You bring in Hollywood Brown, who I think is really great. I think sort of underrated since he left Baltimore. He was in Arizona a little bit. And then obviously you bring in Xavier Worthy, who everybody obviously makes the comparisons to Tyreek Hill because they're both really fast receivers. But just adding in those two to your wide receiver staple infinitely improves this offense. And you bring him back. Edward Hilaire came back for another year, I believe, even not be a Pacheco. I mean, it's not even really, I don't think he'd be a big loss if you lost him anyways. Offensive line is still young and locked in between Humphreys and Smith. I really do like this offense. They're going to be even better than they were last year, probably. I mean, maybe you lose.
Not great, right?
Yeah.
They had to make big plays and key moves, but they weren't that great. Speaking of key moves, Jack, I love Zeke Elliott coming back to Dallas. I really do. People get all wound up about this one. He doesn't have any tread on the tires. Because people didn't watch New England last year, but this guy was solid. And Zeke's been solid, right? In his declining years. He's been super solid. And I think watching Dallas last year, they became a pass-happy team, right? Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, right? That's who they are, right? Pollard got hurt. What's he? He was on a one-year deal. He's gone. But to me, Zeke and the Dallas Cowboys on the offensive line, that's what they were kind of known for. That's what they're known for. And Dak on the play action pass. So I think that takes a little pressure off Dak. I think they're still not done in the running back situation. I still think they're going to make a move to get a running back in there, another one. So, I mean, Zeke's not the bell cow he used to be. Man, he was devastating. But I still think he can help you. I still think he can be a part of it. And I still think he'll help get the ball out of Dak's hands where he doesn't have to carry the team all the time. So I love the move from Dallas. I think Zeke still has tread on the tire. And I thought they missed him. I thought they did. I thought they changed their, I thought they changed their kind of identity of the football club, if you will, by losing Zeke, who was a major part of it for a really long time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it stems from just a lack of really big moves and just disappointment from the Cowboys franchise. I mean, obviously, everybody continues to point back to Jerry Jones' comments, specifically Cowboys fans, of Jerry Jones saying they were going all in. I don't know if that's necessarily what he meant by going all in, was going star hunting. But I feel like so many people were connecting dots of a Derrick Henry, bringing back Tony Pollard. And it was just a star-studded free agency running back class that Cowboys fans were really hopeful they were going to come away with one of the big ones. And they ended up with just, and you see, you're like, oh, we bring back Ezekiel Elliott. It just feels, and you lose Tony Pollard to Tennessee. I just think it was a really tough deal for this Cowboys fan base. It's just, this is what we came away with. I mean, they could trade for somebody, but I really don't know who's out there on the trade market from a running back perspective. I feel like everybody's sort of settled into their new homes. I don't really know who else is out there that could be shifted. It feels like this is who they have for the season.
If you're a team that commits to the run and you really commit to it, I think you can get a guy who is a late round pick or could be a free agent, right? That ends up helping your team. You see it all the time. That's why the position is devalued in the sense that we can get a guy to come in for 2-3 years, mid to late round, which I don't think they drafted a guy because they knew Zeke was coming in. But still, we'll see what they have. They may have someone there that they like, right? That's a depth player that was behind Zeke and Pollard for years. That's still there. So Love what the Bears did, right? I don't know how you can really not hate what the Bears did at all this offseason. Caleb Williams, Adunze, obviously Keenan Allen comes in. DJ Moore is there. Cole Kmet. They have depth at the tight end position now, too, with the acquisitions they brought in the offseason. DeAndre Swift. The offensive line has been getting better and getting rebolstered over the years. Defensively, right, you saw what they did with Sweat. They did it at the linebacker position 2 years ago, bringing in 2 veterans. So I love what the Bears are doing, guys. I think they're an 8-9 win, 10-win football club now. Even if you have some rookie struggles with Caleb Williams, you're running the football, you're making him comfortable. I think he's all what he's supposed to be, right? All cracked up to be, excuse me. Like, he's a legit NFL star. From everybody I've talked to, scouts and coaches that I'm texting throughout the draft, like, who you wish you would have gotten. They're all like Caleb Williams. So I think the media gets a little bored with the narratives and all that stuff late in the NFL draft. And that's a guy that's a really good football player, obviously, and he's going to have major impact on that team. And he's joining a team that is not a normal club to be picking number 1 overall, because they have a lot of depth. They've traded for players and they have a lot of cap space. They still do. So moving forward in the years, at least. So I'm excited for what the Bears have done. I want to address the Michael Penix Jr. situation. I think this is a fantastic move for him, most importantly. And then secondly, it's a fantastic move for the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, I'll admit it. Right away when I saw it, I was stunned. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe they didn't take a guy on defense or offense to help build this roster and make them not just a playoff team, a team that's going to most likely win the South if with a healthy Kirk Cousins and company, to now, right, they're going to get somebody that's going to really help them go deeper in the playoffs, a game break person that you're going to take in the top 10. Well, they did. They drafted one. It's a quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. So I think it's fantastic for him. Listen, guys, this is facts with the NFL. 68 starting quarterbacks in 2022. 66 starting quarterbacks in 2023. Quarterbacks get hurt in this league. I mean, last year, teams are going deep and making runs with backups. Look at the Colts with Gardner Minshew. Look at the Browns with Joe Flacco, right? There's a plenty of examples of these teams now where backups have to come in and perform. So Penix, who's healthy now, who's got a lot of tread on the tires with injuries in the lower body, this time is going to give him time. This time away from not being the starter is going to give him time to continue to heal, continue to get bigger, stronger, faster, develop. And Kirk's coming off an Achilles injury. So there's going to be times where during training camp, they're going to be easing Kirk in where, hey, Penix may be the starter that day. Kirk may be the starter the next day because of reps and how that goes, because you can't force a guy back on Achilles just like that. There's probably a rehab plan there. So they have a 1A quarterback. They have a 1B quarterback. And you're probably not going to draft in the top 10 again if you believe you're going to have success. So I love the move. It's bold. It's in your face. It's, hey, we're here to stay. And for the next 6 to 10 years, they're going to have a quarterback. They're going to have one for the next 6 to 10 years. That is fact. Unless obviously extreme happens. And for Kirk Cousins, he's on a 2-year deal where there's a bunch of guaranteed money. There's 2 other years on that 2-year deal where there's $10 million guaranteed in his 3rd year. So if you need to eat that money, great. Or you have a backup quarterback where you're paying a bunch of money to. Maybe Kirk's still your starter. Maybe Penix you can move on from. Like, who knows, right? So I love the move. It's a league full of, bringing in assets, and especially in that quarterback position, Jack. I love the move now that I've been able to sit back and digest it.
Yeah, I still am sort of up in the air about it. I mean, it's always, like you said, if it's your guy, you got to take your guy. So I don't, like I said, I'm not in those evaluation rooms, obviously. I mean, they spoke very, very highly of him. I mean, I wouldn't expect anyway, regardless. But the one thing, I feel like you would at least keep Kirk Cousins in the loop about it. Like, I feel like even if he's not part, I mean, you give the man, I mean, he's not somebody who should be worried because he got $100 million. But I feel like if they gave him somewhat of a heads up, like at least like a week before, like, hey, Kirk, like, we're playing him for life. I don't know, but it's just
make him sleep better. It's not even worth it, because Kirk's a pro too. This is one thing that people aren't talking about. It's like, oh, Kurt, his feelings. It's like, his feelings ain't hurt. He's fully guaranteed for 2 years. Kidding me?
Yeah.
That's great. I'm the starter here. I'm getting paid like I'm the starter, and you're going to bring in my backup when I'm done. Sweet.
Yeah, I don't think like I said, I don't think his feelings are hurt whatsoever. It's more like a common courtesy, like, hey, just a heads up so you can sort of prepare for the backlash. Like, this is what we're doing here.
Okay. I don't know. I hear it. You're not wrong, Jack. I'm just bringing you the perspective from inside the facility. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The great Jack Connell, he's moving forward. I'm going to finish things up here, guys. Again, everything we do here is brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. Give someone a taste of the Jersey Shore. This Mother's Day, 2 weeks away, Mother's Day. They're going to be heading down to Cape May for that. Can't wait for that. Spend time with my mom, some friends, some family. Have a great time down there. I love it. The weather, man, it's so good. It's back. Can't wait to get out golfing and a couple of things too. But I hope everyone really enjoyed the NFL draft. I'm going to pull something up here because something slipped my mind. Stand by. But again, a lot going on in the sports world today. Love what's going on in the NHL, excuse me. I mean, the playoffs are the best. It's the best playoffs for a reason. If you're not tuning in, you are wrong. I love what the Minnesota Vikings did in this draft. You lose Kirk Cousins, franchise quarterback. Guys had a successor for a while, major impact, on the community, on the football field, on, J.J. Jefferson's, career, on a lot of different players' career. A great player for that franchise. You lose Daniil Hunter, another great player for that franchise. Dominant, who moves on to the Texans. Kurt moves on to Atlanta. And you bring in your first 2 picks. I love it. J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner. Very similar to what Houston did last year, which we talked about. Teams are going to try to mimic, right? Let's trade up. Let's get up into the first round. Let's mortgage the future here a little bit. And let's take 2 guys that are going to change the program. You saw it, what happened in Houston with 2 draft picks, a head coach, a GM, everyone on the same page, ownership, which they have in Minnesota. We've talked about it ad nauseum from being with them in training camp last year. They got their shit together, period. And if you're a rookie quarterback, are you kidding me? And then if you're a rookie edge rusher to play in that Brian Flores system where Daniil Hunter did what he did last year and their depth rushers did last year, you don't know where pressure's coming from, and half your sacks you're running wide free because they screwed up the protection. So those 2 rookies should be doing cartwheels. And I know the team was doing cartwheels. They got those players too. The Eagles had a great draft, right? Everybody talks about that. They always do, blah, blah, blah. But they went right in there and said, okay, we need corners, period. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do whatever it takes to draft them. So I love what they did in that regard. I love what the Ravens did in that regard. Like, they're the 2 teams I feel like they always have a good draft. At Kansas City, right? Like, those teams do well. I'm excited to see what New England does, right? It seemed like a different draft here, drafting a little bit different type of players that have been there before. I want to touch on one thing. The Philadelphia Eagles struck gold with Mekhi Becton. Taking him, they didn't get an offensive lineman. They didn't get a future guy. They didn't get a guy to be the swing tackle for him this year in the draft. So they go out and get Mekhi Becton. It was with the Jets. It was a former top pick, first-round pick out of Louisville. He is a mammoth of a human being. So you have Lane Johnson, whose career is coming to an end. Probably a year or 2 left. Mailata just signed an extension. What's the worst thing that happens to Becton? He backs up this year. Those 2 are healthy. He never plays a snap. He got better personally. He went to Stoutland University. Great. Worst thing, one of those 2 guys gets hurt. He goes in there and has a chance to resurrect his career. This guy is a monster with arm length and size. He just had some injuries. So what a great opportunity and a great move by the Eagles and Howie Roseman. I think Becton is thanking his lucky stars that he ended up in Philly backing up those 2 studs at right and left tackle. All right, guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's just Jack and I this week. Plenty to digest here, and figured, hey, we're just going to go us. Stay tuned for more awesome guests from Boiron, USA, Arnicare. Shout out to the Fudge Kitchen. And stay tuned for more on the Colin Thompson Show. A lot of exciting stuff going on. Thanks for tuning in.